Hi guys, Robbo46 here, welcome yourselves back to MotoGP 21 on the Xbox Series X. So we are doing a 100% race around Silverstone as Brad Binder, because Brad Binder won the previous race. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, I was dreading this race, and it was a very, very difficult race. Tyre wear was turned off, I went for a soft rear tyre, and as you'll see during the race, basically towards the end of every lap, the rear tyre was overheating on the right hand side, so trying to go through wood coat, it was spinning up a lot and I was losing a lot of drive. Silverstone, for some reason, is one of those tracks on this game that I've really been struggling. On previous MotoGP games, no problems whatsoever, but on this one, I don't know what it is. I just really don't get on with it. Really struggling for grip. Super bumpy as well, and yeah, just not having a good time with it. So you know, if you're watching in my career videos in the MotoGP category, I always struggle around here. I struggle to qualify as well, and yeah, you will see me basically lose concentration and lose my head towards the end of the race as well. It all becomes unravelled, and yeah, I just wanted this race to be over as soon as it began, because I knew it was going to be a long race, and I hate this race on MotoGP 21, which is a shame because it is my home race, and yeah, not good, but yeah, enjoy what happens on the screen. If you're watching it, if you're just listening, then enjoy my voice. So, MotoGP, the British Grand Prix, it was a dry day. It's a shame as well because I got offered tickets to go to Silverstone. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the time off work, so I couldn't go. We usually try and go to Silverstone every year. Obviously, last year didn't happen. We didn't go in 2019 because we were going to go to Misano in 2020, and then obviously that didn't happen. We never planned really to go this year because, again, we were planning on going to Misano. But yeah, like I said, I got offered tickets to go, but unfortunately couldn't get the time off work, so couldn't take those tickets. And then after I found out I couldn't go to Silverstone, we got the news that we won't be going to Misano this year either because of all the travel restrictions. So yeah, very annoying, but it is what it is, and yeah, just got to hopefully wait for next year, but we'll wait and see. Anyway, British Grand Prix, they ran it in a slightly different order, with Moto3 being first, MotoGP being the second race of the day, and Moto2 being the third and final race of the day. They always say it's to do with TV clashes with like F1 and that, but personally, I think the real reason is to do with the whole car park situation. If you've ever been to a MotoGP race in the UK, you'll know that trying to get out of the car park is you know, a real ball ache. And it was only a few years ago that they started to put MotoGP second, as opposed to the final race of the day. Because if it's the final race of the day, everyone leaves at the same time. Because a lot of people, for some reason, just turn up for MotoGP, then go home again, or they go home straight after MotoGP. So yeah, then they started putting like the intermediate class as the third race of the day, but that's a whole other different story. But we're not going to do it in the order that they raced in. So we're going to start with Moto3. We will then go on to Moto2, and then we'll go on to MotoGP. We'll do it in the normal format we usually do, and just do it that way, just because otherwise we're going to yeah, I just prefer doing it in that format anyway. So Moto3, Romano Fenati, very dominant all weekend. He's been the fastest guy all weekend in Moto3, pole position, and he had quite a bit of time over everyone throughout all the free practice and qualifying. Himself and Husqvarna looked really good around here. But yeah, so basically Fenati got into the lead straight away, and that was it. He basically led the whole race. Nico Antonelli, a bit of a surprise one. He went with Finati and basically followed him for the whole race until, you know, the very last few laps of the race. He was pretty much on Finati's back wheel for the whole time, and he was looking really good actually, considering he's still injured. He's got an injured hand. He broke some fingers in his right hand and still recovering from that. But it was good to see Antonelli back towards the sharp end. We know he's very, very fast, but he hasn't had the best of seasons. He does seem to crash a lot as well. And yeah, it was good to see him on some sort of form around here with his team as well. But yeah, like I said, Finati, once he got into the lead, he was able to break away with Antonelli. Antonelli just done his best to hold on to Finati. It looked like at some point Antonelli was going to be able to put some sort of overtake on Finati, but didn't quite manage to get close enough, so wasn't able to get through and get the better of Finati. And like I said, Finati, he kind of looked like he had a bit more pace in the locker if he needed it, but you know, he knew that he only had one rider with him, and the rest of the riders were a few seconds behind them. So it was literally a leading group of two, which is not what we've come to expect from Moto3. It doesn't happen very often, but you know, when one rider is so much quicker throughout the whole weekend, it's very, very difficult for everyone else to be able to keep up with them. But yeah, usually we're used to like a 15 group battle for the lead, but not this time. It was just a leading group of two, much like the first Austrian Grand Prix, you may remember, with Pedro Costa and Sergio Garcia being the two in the lead, with a bit of a gap back to third place in the pursuing group. But yeah, it was pretty much the same here with Finati and Antonelli. Pedro Costa and Sergio Garcia, the championship contenders. Obviously, Costa leading the championship, Garcia in second place. They both qualified really poorly and not really getting to grips with the Silverstone circuit. And yeah, they were struggling. They were struggling, and they weren't even in the pursuing group. It was really weird how this race kind of panned out. So you had Finati and Antonelli out front. Then you had another group, which was Foggia down to, I think, Riccardo Rossi to 9th place. They were the second group, and then the third group you had the likes of Carlos Tate, Pedro Costa, McPhee, Sasaki, Garcia, Gabriel Rodrigo as well. They were all in the third group, which was, you know, there was a gap between them and the second group, and then there was obviously a gap from the second group to the leading pair. John McPhee didn't have the best of starts. He got nerfed off track right on lap 1. So he did drop right down to last place, but he done a really, really good job to recover. And because he only lost, obviously, positions, but he didn't lose too much time from the back of the field, so he was able to cling on to the back of other riders, get past him, use a bit of slipstream and that, and kind of drag himself back within you know, the top 15, which was good to see. He got into the group with Pedro Costa and Sergio Garcia and was fighting amongst them. Yeah, in the second group you had Darren Binder as well. He was fighting and trying to get towards the front of that group. But because there was so much fighting and changing going on in these two big groups, they were never going to be able to catch the front two, because the front two weren't fighting. It was literally, like I said, Finati just setting the pace and Antonelli just trying to cling on for as long as possible. And yeah, none of the groups were able to close until towards the end of the race. Dennis Foggia and Guevara, they managed to break away from the second group, and they were really closing in on Antonelli. Antonelli, obviously to do with fitness towards the end, or the pain from his right hand, starting to struggle in the last. It was only literally the last 2 or 3 laps. He really dropped back from Finati, and the gap was like 2.4 seconds back to Foggia and Guevara. But then, like, within, you know, literally a lap and a half, it came down to a second, and then it was under a second, and then on the final lap it came down to 0.6. But Guevara and Foggia were fighting amongst themselves again, which was obviously slowing them down a little bit, so they weren't able to actually catch Antonelli. Maybe if there was one more lap, or if they worked together a little bit better, they might have been able to catch him, but they weren't quite able to. There wasn't really that many DNFs. There was literally 2. Andrea Migno, no luck for Migno. He unfortunately had a mechanical issue towards the beginning of the race, and unfortunately that ruled him out. And also Kaito Toba, unfortunately he DNF'd as well. But yeah, Finati went on to take the win. Antonelli managed to cling on and stay in second place, and Dennis Foggia took third. So an all Italian podium, which was you know, interesting to see. And Finati was just dominant all weekend, and when Finati's on it, he's on it, and he just needs to get that consistency. And you know, he's not the best qualifier either. A lot of the time he qualifies quite far down, but yeah. So Finati won, Antonelli was second, and Foggia was third. Guevara just missed out on the podium in 4th place. And then we had the next group of riders with Suzuki in 5th place, Mazia in 6th, Darren Binder was 7th, Dennis Onshu 8th, Riccardo Rossi in 9th, Carlos Tate in 10th, Pedro Costa, who was in about 17th place at one point, on the final lap managed to claw his way back into the points into 11th place. John McPhee, after being nerfed off track on lap 1 and being dead last, he finished in 12th. Sasaki was 13th, Philip Solach was 14th, and the last point scorer was Gabriel Rodrigo. Sergio Garcia, who was well within the points on the final lap and actually had a little bit of a buffer over everyone, got caught and shuffled back, and he ended up down in 16th place. Then you had Nepa in 17th, Artigas 18th, Fernandez 19th, Serra in 20th, and Alcoba 21st, Fallon in 22nd, Yamanaka 23rd, Yuki Kuni 24th, Koffler 25th, and yeah, that's it, because the 2 DNFs were Migno and Kaito Toba. So that was Moto 3. Pedro Costa, even though it wasn't a huge amount of points he got, he has gained a few more over Garcia. So Pedro Costa on 201 points. He's got a 46 point lead, a whole Valentino Rossi over Sergio Garcia in second. Finati is 3rd place, but he's actually closed the gap down to 69 points. Nice. Dennis Foggia in 4th. He's 83 points behind. Then you've got Mazia in 5th, 96 behind. Darren Binder 6th, 106 behind. Antonelli in 7th. He's actually moved up a place to 7th, 114 behind. Sasaki's dropped down to 8th, 130 behind. And Kaito Toba in 9th, 139 behind. So that was Moto 3. Then we obviously had MotoGP, but we're going to go on to Moto 2 now. Like I said, we're going to do it in the traditional order. So, Marco Bezzecchi looking good, starting from a good qualifying position, and got a good start. But it was Sam Lowes who, off the start, managed to get into the lead pretty sharpish. Led the first lap. Obviously, the crowd were going wild. You could hear him on the TV, and obviously, if you were there, then you would have heard it a lot more clearly. Always a great atmosphere at Silverstone, especially when a Brit gets into the lead. So Sam Lowes led for a little bit. Bezzecchi came back at him, and then Lowes managed to retake the lead for a little bit, and then Bezzecchi did eventually get the better of him, and yeah, Lowes wasn't able to regain the lead. Remy Gardner was coming through the order as well. He got inside the top 3. He then got past Lowes, and then he got up to Marco Bezzecchi. and Marco Bezzecchi and Remy Gardner literally had pretty much most of the race fighting together, even down to like the final lap. It was just them two fighting and trading places throughout the whole race as well. You know, Gardner would go into the lead, then Bezzecchi would get him back, and then Gardner would get him again, and then Bezzecchi would get him back again. It was just like chopping and changing quite often between those two, but they were, you know, out front, and the scrap was literally between those two. Jorge Navarro was looking very, very good as well. He, unfortunately, for British fans, got past Sam Lowes for third. Lowes trying his best to hold on to the back of Navarro, but wasn't quite able to. Well, he wasn't too far behind. He was only about 0.3 of a second behind, but just not quite able to close in enough to be able to get past Navarro and get back on the podium. But yeah, Navarro looking really, really good. Augusto Fernandez was fighting with Fabio Di Giannantonio for most of the race as well. Obviously, I must say that Jake Dixon was not racing in Moto2 because he was racing in MotoGP. Obviously, more on that when we get to it. He was replaced by Adam Norridin, who unfortunately pulled out of the race a bit early on. There was quite a few DNFs in the race. Lorenzo Baldassari pulled out with a mechanical issue. Hector Garzo crashed out. Stefano Manzi was out. Adam Norridin, like I said, he retired. Cameron Beaubier also crashed out, which was a bit unfortunate for the American. So yeah, you had a few battles going on throughout the pack, but it did get a little bit spread out, especially a bit further down the order. But yeah, it was literally between Remy Gardner and Marco Bezzecchi. That was where the main fight was throughout pretty much the whole race. They were chopping and changing pretty much every lap, and yeah, it was a really good battle actually. It was a really good battle. Usually with Moto2, you know, they battle for a bit and then the leader just edges away slightly, and you know, second place can't really do a lot about it. But no, they stuck together pretty much like glue for the whole race, and yeah, it was good to see them battle for the most of the race as well. Like I said, it pretty much went down to the last lap as well between the two of them. And like I've already said as well, Sam Lowes just didn't quite have the pace to regain third place from Jorge Navarro. He yeah, was there, but just not able to get back past the Spaniard. But yeah, it was Remy Gardner who managed to take the win. But right towards the end of the race, there was a bit of drama in terms of the championship race, because Raul Fernandez crashed out of the race, and that was him done and dusted. No points for him, and yeah, not good for him, especially when his teammate and his main championship rival won the race and took 25 points. Marco Bezzecchi came home in second place. Jorge Navarro completed the podium just ahead of Sam Lowes. Literally beat Sam Lowes by about 0.3 of a second, so not much at all. Fabio Di Giannantonio got the better of Augusto Fernandez for 5th place. Augusto was 6th. Aaron Canet came home in 7th. Bit of a lonely 7th from him. Xavi Vierge was fighting with Ayogura for a bit of the race as well. Those two were very, very close by the end, literally separated by 0.03 of a second. Vierge finished 8th and Ayogura finished 9th. Joe Roberts was 10th, just ahead of the retiring Thomas Luthi. Thomas Luthi has announced that he will be retiring from motorcycle racing. Vietti was 12th, Schrotter 13th, Bulliger 14th, and Bo Ben Snyder was the final point scorer in 15th place. And then 16th you had replacement rider Aldeguerre. I don't actually know how you pronounce his name, to be honest. Chantra was 17th, Arbolino 18th, Arenas was 19th, Ramirez 20th, Siren 21st, Corsi 22nd, and Barry Boltus was 23rd. And like I said, we've already been through the DNFs with Raul Fernandez, Cameron Beaubier, Adam Norridin, Stefano Manzi, Hector Garzo and Lorenzo Baldassari. So the championship now, because Raul Fernandez had a DNF, Remy Gardner extended his lead by 25 points. Remy Gardner on 231 points. Raul Fernandez 44 points behind now in second place. Marco Bezzecchi closes the gap down to Fernandez though in third. He's only 52 points behind Remy Gardner. Sam Lowe's in fourth, 104 points behind. Aaron Canet is fifth, 139 behind. He's on the same points as Augusto Fernandez in sixth. He's also 139 points behind. Fabio Di Giannantonio 1 point behind both Canet and Fernandez in seventh, 140 behind. Ayogura in eighth, 144 behind. And Marcel Schrotter in ninth place, 156 behind. So that was Moto2. But before that, we had MotoGP. Now, a lot of news to get through in terms of MotoGP. Obviously, we had announced earlier on that Maverick Vinales and Yamaha were parting company. We had earlier on in the season that they were going to split, and after, well, basically halfway through the contract, Vinales had signed a 2-year contract with Yamaha, but they've both decided to end that contract early after one season. Then we had, rumours going around that Vinales was going to sign for Aprilia. We've also had Vinales saying things about Yamaha, about how he feels disrespected and stuff like that, and that they're not doing enough to be competitive. Obviously Yamaha didn't take kindly to that. And then we had the very, very bizarre situation with Vinales at the Red Bull Ring, over-revving the bike, which the team were not happy with because they didn't want it to obviously damage the engine. So they suspended Vinales. I did say at the time, I don't think we're going to see Vinales back on the Yamaha again. Yamaha have decided that that is it for their relationship with Vinales. He is no longer going to be racing for them for the rest of the season. So Vinales will not be on a Yamaha for the rest of the season. But we did get announced just before the British Grand Prix that Vinales has signed for Aprilia for 2022. He's also got a test at Misano very, very soon. So he is going to be testing out the Aprilia. Lorenzo Savadori pulled out of the British Grand Prix. He'd done a couple of free practices, but he was like over 5 seconds off the pace. Still really injured after that nasty crash at the first Red Bull Ring race where he crashed into Danny Pedrosa's stricken KTM. I think that we're going to see Vinales on the Aprilia before the end of the season. I think it's going to happen. It may well happen at Misano, which is potentially why he's testing there. So yeah, that is happening. So for the British Grand Prix and also now for Aragon, Monster Energy Yamaha have drafted in Cal Crutchlow, who you may remember was stepping in for Franco Morbidelli at both the Red Bull Ring races because Franco Morbidelli is out recovering from a knee operation. So Cal Crutchlow done 2 races with them. With the announcement of the departure of Vinales, Yamaha moved Cal Crutchlow from the Petronas team to the factory team for Silverstone, and then it's been announced he will be there for Aragon as well. Jake Dixon was moved up from Moto2 to MotoGP to make his MotoGP debut for Silverstone. There is the possibility that we may see him on the bike again at Aragon. Franco Morbidelli now, it's been announced that when he returns potentially at Misano, he is going to go straight into the factory Yamaha team, so will no longer be on a 2-year-old bike at the Petronas squad. He will take Vinales' seat for the rest of the season, and he will be there for next season as well. So Morbidelli will be a factory rider at Yamaha for 2022. It gets even better because at Misano, going alongside Valentino Rossi, Andrea Dovizioso is making a return. obviously he's taking a 1-year sabbatical and hoping to come back to MotoGP next year. But now that there is a vacancy at the Petronas team, he has been in talks. Apparently the deal's pretty much done. They're just waiting on signing off some paperwork. But Dovizioso will be riding alongside Valentino Rossi in the Petronas team from Misano onwards for the rest of the season. And he is also going to be one of their riders for 2022 as well. Obviously, they are losing the Petronas sponsor. So, yeah, all eyes are on who is going to take the second seat at Yamaha. Basically, Top Prak in World Superbikes has said if he wins the World Superbike Championship this season, then he will move to MotoGP and he will be with that Petronas squad. If he does not win it this season, he will stay in World Superbikes. If he stays in World Superbikes, there are talks of Darren Binder moving up from Moto3 to Moto2, which isn't the best of ideas. We saw the struggles of Jack Miller when he moved straight from Moto3 up to MotoGP. Took him a while to get to grips with MotoGP bike, and it's a little bit too much too soon. There's obviously still talks of Jake Dixon as well. He done a really good job throughout the weekend and was improving all the time. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting few weeks in development for who's going to be the second rider at Petronas next season. However, there was a bit of a controversy in qualifying. Pol Espargaro started on pole position, but for some reason, I don't know how this even happened. So Jorge Martin went through Sector 1 over 1 second quicker than anyone else. He basically made a mistake in Vale and cut the chicane. Even the commentators at the time were saying, that isn't right. We didn't actually know what had happened. But yeah, he basically cut the chicane, cut the entrance to the chicane. And basically gained a whole second in Sector 1. And Neil Hodgson on BT Sport was saying, you know, at this level, you do not gain a whole second in one sector. And then it put them on pole position. The team, obviously, when it cut to them into the pit box, they obviously knew that it wasn't going to be pole position. They weren't celebrating or anything. But it took a very, very long time for Race Direction to actually find out what had happened. And it's really bizarre because they're quick enough to jump onto riders who go like a millimetre onto the green. And they're quick enough to give them, you know, track limits warnings. But it took them ages to bloody find a corner cut during a qualifying session. Bearing in mind, they have a lot of camera angles that they can view. They have the onboard camera angles which they can view. So I don't know what they were playing at, but it took longer than it should have to realise that Jorge Martin had in fact cut a corner. And then his time was obviously deleted. So Pol Espargaro started in pole position. You had Fabio Quartararo starting in third. But yeah, the race, as basically I take a corner cut because I nearly lost the front. Yeah, got a track limits warning. See, Race Direction, they got mine there, and then I got another one as well. Gets worse, it gets worse. Yeah, the MotoGP race started off with Pol Espargaro getting the whole shot, led into turn 1. And Alicia Sparger on the Aprilia qualified pretty well. He managed to get past Pecco Bagnaia, who was in second place at the time. Managed to get past him and get into second position. So you had the Espargaro brothers, first and second, which was good to see. We've never really seen that before. And it was good to see Pol Espargaro out front and looking quick on the Repsol Honda. We know he has struggled a lot through, being with that team at Repsol Honda, and obviously having Marquez as a teammate. But also good to see the Aprilia looking really, really competitive at the sharp end. And he tried to overtake his brother at one point. He done a massive lunge, probably so he could say that he led, even if it was literally for like 2 or 3 seconds before Pol Espargaro, who was on the racing line and hit the apex, managed to get back past him. So that was all well and good. Alicia Spargo did have a couple of spats with a couple of riders, one of them being his own brother during free practice because he felt that pole had held him up. So yeah, a bit of an emotional weekend for Alicia Spargo to say the least. But yeah, it was good to see the Spargo brothers looking really good out front and looking competitive. But there was a lot of drama that happened on the opening lap involving Marc Marquez. Marc Marquez had some very, very big crashes throughout the whole weekend. He had one of them which was over 170 miles an hour. He lost the front and took a big tumble. He had to have his vision checked out because some gravel got in his eyes, but he said he could see okay. The drama in lap 1. Into this corner we're coming into now, Stowe. Jorge Martin went up the inside, made contact with Marc Marquez like Morbidelli just did on me, sent him wide, and then coming down to Vale, Marquez, the red mist descended. Martin was late on the brakes into the entrance, swept back, so Martin was deep into Vale. Marquez took the normal line. As they switched over to the right hand corner through the chicane, Jorge Martin was obviously on the inside. Marquez on the outside decided to swoop back up the inside and kind of tried to repay the favour that Martin put on him a couple of laps ago. However, it all went wrong. Marquez made big contact with Jorge Martin as I go to take the long lap penalty, then realised I've already missed it. Yeah, made big contact with Jorge Martin and they both went down. They both went down and it was a silly move by Marquez. Yes, the red mist descended. But, you know, we know what Marquez rides like. We know that he's barged people out the way in the past, but he doesn't like it being done to him, and he does try to repay the favour if it is done to him. Except this time it went very, very wrong. Fair play to him. He went to the Pramac team and to Jorge Martin and apologised. But yeah, it's not good to see someone, you know, of that calibre kind of basically trying to get their own back. But it is what it is. And like I said, he did go and apologise to Jorge Martin and the whole Pramac team. So, yeah, it is very, very weird because, let's be honest, if that was in Moto 3 or Moto 2, he would have had an extra penalty for the next race. But as it stands, it didn't even come up saying it was under investigation. So he doesn't have a penalty for the next race as far as we're aware at the moment. Fabio Quartararo managed to eventually get past the Ducati of Bagnaia. He got past Alicia Spargo to split the Espargaro brothers, and then he managed to eventually get past Pol Espargaro and get into the lead, and then that was it. Once Quartararo hit the front, he was able to put in really, really good lap times and just pull away from everyone. And we saw what his pace was like in FP4, very metronomic. We could see that he was doing 2-minute flats pretty much the whole of FP4, and that is pretty much what he was doing throughout the race, able to just pull away as I struggled to do my long lap penalty because of the camera change, and then I pretty much just give up now. But yeah, a really, really good race from Fabio Quartararo. There were only 2 DNFs, and that was Marquez and Martin in the whole race. Jack Miller was fighting with his teammate Bagnaia, and then quite a few people start to suffer from tyre degradation. One of them including Bagnaia. The other one, Valentino Rossi. Rossi had a really good qualifying, started in 8th place. He was 8th place for a lot of the race. And then from about lap 10 onwards, he just started losing places every lap. And his last lap, I believe, was about 5 seconds slower than what he'd been doing in the race. So really suffering heavily on, you know, rear tyre wear. So he wasn't able to get the drive out corners or anything. Bagnaia started dropping back through the field as well, which wasn't good to see. again struggling with tyre degradation. Pol Espargaro didn't drop back too much. He did drop down to 5th place. Brad Binder was picking up places left, right and centre, and also so was Iker Lecuona and Alex Marquez because of people dropping their pace due to rear tyre wear. Zarco, a bit of a strange weekend for Zarco. Obviously he was second in the championship for a lot of the season, but yeah, just didn't seem to get on very well with Silverstone, and the race was no different. He was struggling for pace. Oliveira as well, obviously still feeling effects of his crash at the Red Bull Ring. Yeah, not a good weekend and not a good race from him either. But Fabio Quartararo basically put on, as soon as he got to the front, a perfect race. Very metronomic, very Lorenzo-esque, and you know, he is he's almost got the same tactics as Jorge Lorenzo used to, which is get to the front as soon as possible and then just be super smooth, super precise and super fast, and that's exactly what he'd done. No one could get with him, and Quartararo did go on to win the race. There was a fight for the last podium position. Alex Rins, you may remember last time we came to Silverstone in 2019, Rins managed to get the better of Marc Marquez through the final corner and over the line to win the race. Seems like Rins really likes Silverstone, and the Suzuki seems to work around it. He managed to make his way up to 2nd place, and he managed to pull away from the guys behind, but he wasn't able to catch Quartararo. So he had quite a lonely race for 2nd place, but a good 2nd place for Alex Rins there. And then you had the fight between Jack Miller and Alicia Espargaro for 3rd place. Even if Espargaro ended up in 4th place, it still would have been a pretty his best finish result in MotoGP, in the MotoGP era. But Jack Miller attacked Alicia Espargaro on the final lap in the last sector through like Village, and he went a little bit wide. Alicia Espargaro did not panic. He just took his normal lines. He was able to out-accelerate Miller because Miller was wide. So Miller was basically taking the line I'm taking now, but he also went wide at the loop as well, which Alicia Espargaro got up the inside, got better drive out, and he managed to get back into 3rd place as they went through Aintree. Alicia Espargaro was still in front of Miller. He went a little bit defensive down the Wellington Straight, and managed to hold his nerve through Brooklands, and he managed to go home to take Aprilia's first MotoGP era podium, and Alicia Espargaro's 2nd ever podium in the MotoGP category. So yeah, very well done to him. So yeah, top 3, Fabio Quartararo won, Alex Rins 2nd, and Alicia Espargaro took home 3rd place. Jack Miller was 4th. Pol Espargaro, after having pole position and leading the race for a tiny amount at the beginning, ended up in 5th place. Brad Binder, like I said, he was fighting his way through the pack. He ended up in 6th. Iker Lecuona, the 21-year-old, who is yet to find a ride for next season, looking like he's going to World Superbikes. He ended up in 7th place. Really good ride from him. Alex Marquez was 8th. Joan Mir was 9th. Mir was looking like he was potentially going to get a podium, but yeah, it wasn't meant to be. Danilo Petrucci got a top 10 with 10th place, ahead of Zarco in 11th. Bastianini 12th. Nakagami 13th. Bagnaia, who was in a podium point scoring position at one point, ended up in 14th because of rear tyre wear. Luca Marini scored the last points in 15th. Then you had Oliveira 16th. Cal Crutchlow in 17th. Valentino Rossi, who dropped like an absolute stone after 10 laps, was 18th. And Jake Dixon bringing up the rear in 19th place. So a Yamaha sandwich, basically, because a Yamaha won and a Yamaha came last. Well, actually, a Yamaha won, and the other 3 Yamahas were 3rd from bottom, 2nd from bottom, and bottom. So just good to show what Quartararo is doing on that Yamaha. So, championship. Fabio Quartararo leads and extends his lead very, very healthily. He's got 206 points. Joan Mears actually moved up to second place now. He is on 141 points, 65 points behind. Zarco is in third and moves back up to third on 137 points. He's 69 points behind. Nice. Bagnaia, because of that, has dropped 2 positions from second to fourth. He's 136 points behind, 136 points, 70 points behind. Jack Miller's fifth, 88 points behind. Brad Binder is sixth, 98 points behind. Vinales is 7th, 111 behind. Oliveira 8th, 121 behind. And Elisa Spargo is 9th, 123 behind. But anyway, guys, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to stay safe, watch and look after yourselves. See you guys next time. See you!